my wedding planning friends, and welcome back to my channel. If this is your first time here, thanks so much for clicking on my video. I'm Emily Summer. I'm a wedding planner based in Montana, and I make weekly videos on wedding planning tips and advice. So today I'm going to give you some advice on how to narrow down some options when it comes to finding your wedding photographer, and some questions that you should ask that will hopefully make that decision a little bit easier for you. So here are the 15 most important questions to ask your potential wedding photographer. Now, a lot of these questions might seem like common sense, and many wedding photographers will already have a lot of this information on their website or on their social media. So if you've been doing your research, you probably know the answer to a lot of these questions already. However, if you're just starting out, if you're overwhelmed with the amount of wedding photographers there are available in your area and not really sure how to narrow that down, how to know who to pick over others. Hopefully asking your photographer, asking yourself some of these questions will help narrow that down for you. Number one, obviously you want to ask them about their availability. If you already have a date set, then that is the date that you need to make sure that your potential wedding photographer will be available for. So that's likely going to be the first question you ask any pool of photographers that you are considering hiring. Number two, ask about their experience. So this could be in the form of straight up asking them how many weddings they've done, looking through their online galleries. If it's not very obvious how experienced they are, if they don't have a ton of wedding photos on their website, or if they don't have social media, or if they have a very small following on social media, just a few posts, and it's not obvious that they have been doing this for a really long time, it's okay to ask and get a gauge on the amount of experience that they have had shooting weddings. This will also help you to kind of pinpoint the price to expect, and if you're getting quotes from photographers that have been doing it for 5-10 years and getting prices that are similar to photographers that are maybe just starting out or don't have quite as many photos to display, that might be a red flag for you. Number three, reviews, client testimonials. These are huge. Again, if you're trying to narrow down your pool of photographers and not sure who to go with, finding and reading reviews and client testimonials are going to give you a really good idea of the kind of not only wedding photographer that they are in the experience on your actual wedding day. Are they somebody that is upbeat and fun and makes it super comfortable for you? Are they somebody that's able to wrangle your guests easily? Or are they someone that's kind of more in the background and you don't really know that they're there and they're getting a lot of candidates? And this really comes down to what you want in a wedding photographer as well, and what your priorities are, and what kind of a personality and what you're looking for in a wedding photographer. Like I said before, most photographers will have reviews of some kind on their website or on their social media, but if they don't, reach out and see if there are client testimonials that they can send your way, or if you have permission to reach out to previous clients of theirs. Number four, ask them how they would describe their photography style. Again, if this isn't already obvious or if it's not listed somewhere on their website, there are a lot of different styles of photography, and that might be something that you didn't know until you started this process. And some examples are, the photos that are really bright and light, that's like a light and airy style. There's also dark and moody, which is pretty self-explanatory. Those darker images, a lot of rich, deep colors in the editing style. This is something to pay attention to when you're looking at their online galleries and previous work that they've done, and if that is a style that fits what you want for your wedding photos, and envisioning if those photos were printed all over your house, would you enjoy them? Do you like their editing style? Do you like their shooting style? Obviously, an important one is to talk about the money of it all, so asking if they have set packages or if they customize packages to fit your budget. So overall, just kind of talking about your budget here. Most photographers will have various packages, kind of a baseline package that has a minimum hours, and obviously the least expensive, ranging up to a package that is much more inclusive, figuring out exactly what is included in those. Do you get a certain number of prints with that? Do you get a second shooter? All of that kind of stuff. Ask about their packages and what the price is, and if they can customize. It's also a good idea to ask how many photos they anticipate delivering. Some photographers will send like pretty much every photo that is viable, and some photographers will pick and choose their best and have a certain limit of like 500-600 photos that they will send over to their clients. This also brings to the next question, how do you deliver their photos? If you're okay with just getting digital files or getting like a USB flash drive, if you're getting an online album, every photographer is a little bit different in this and how they deliver their photos, and so getting that expectation early on of what you can expect from each photographer and which one suits your personal preference best. Another question to ask is if they use artificial lighting equipment. So this would be using some sort of flash, whether that's on camera or off camera during your reception is usually when lighting equipment is necessary. And I will say it's not always necessary to have lighting equipment. Many photographers are able to capture what they need to without bringing in extra lighting equipment or just having an on-camera flash. If you're aware that your venue might be a darker spot, if there's not a lot of natural light around, especially as it's getting later into the evening when you're going to be doing things like toasts and dances that you're going to want photos of, it's a good thing to have that conversation with your photographer and how they handle low light situations. A good question to ask them is also, do you have a second shooter? Many photographers will work with a second shooter, which is basically just an assistant they bring on the day that will kind of help capture those moments, especially during the ceremony, so that you can have vantage points from multiple places. So someone typically will be at the front of the ceremony space and some will be towards the back. So you can get both partners' reactions at the same time walking down the aisle. It's also great to just have an extra person there to help capture those little intimate moments from your guests or any other small details while the other is focusing on the actual, the large happenings, the actual ceremony, the actual exchanging of the rings and that sort of thing. It kind of helps to cover all your bases when it comes to getting those great photographs. You also want to ask what their backup plan is. So especially if they're working with a second shooter, most of the time they're probably going to have a good backup plan, whether that is that second shooter filling their spot, but basically making sure that there is a plan in place once they've already been hired, that if for some reason there's a medical issue or an accident or something like that makes it impossible for them to perform their job at your wedding, what is the backup plan there? Another good money-related question is to ask if they require a deposit. Probably 99% of wedding photographers will require some sort of deposit, whether that's a percentage of the overall price or a flat rate fee to reserve your date. That might also be a deciding factor based on your budget of what you can afford up front when you're trying to decide between photographers. You also might want to ask them if they've ever been to your venue. This is especially helpful if you've never been to your venue or if you're planning a destination wedding and maybe you've just seen photos of it or you've been there once and not in the season that your wedding will take place. Having a photographer that has been to that spot already will likely know good photo op locations and the time it takes to get around the grounds and just the overall timing and setting of the venue. Speaking of venue locations, you should also ask them if they charge a travel fee. So if you're getting married somewhere a little bit out of town and you're hiring somebody that lives in town, or if you're hiring somebody from a town that you're from and getting married a couple hours away, finding out what they charge as far as travel goes might also help that decision for you. Number 14, do you offer prints or photo albums? Some photographers will just hand off the digital photos, whether that's on a flash drive or an online album, and if that's fine with you, then that's great. However, some photographers will include print packages as well as printed customizable photo albums. And if that's something that you're interested in, you want to make sure that you're asking the photographers that question to make sure that you are selecting one where getting prints or a photo album is an option for you. And number 15, a good question to ask is, are your engagement photos included? Do they have a complimentary engagement session? A lot of photographers will include this in many packages. Sometimes it won't be whatever their baseline package is, but anything above that will include an engagement photo, so that's just something to ask them about, and that might help narrow down your decisions here as well. But engagement sessions, complimentary engagement sessions, are a great thing to have in a photographer, not only because, hello, you're obviously getting free engagement photos, but it also gives you a chance to interact with that photographer before your wedding day. It'll give you a sense of their personality, what it's like to work with them, how comfortable they make you feel, and just a real sense of what to expect on your wedding day, rather than meeting somebody that's going to basically be following you around all day and night on your wedding day without ever having any previous experience with them. Choosing a photographer can be a little bit overwhelming. I know there's so many options out there and sometimes it's hard to know who the heck to choose. So hopefully this will help narrow it down a little bit for you and give you a great list of questions to ask your potential wedding photographers. Hopefully you found this video helpful. If you did, please like and subscribe to get weekly videos on wedding planning tips and advice, and we'll see you next week.